Hello everyone, this is the third part of Induction of Labour, and in this we'll discuss different methods through which we can initiate the uterine contraction. So before you watch this video, you can go through with its previous two parts, and the link of these videos given in description box below, where I have discussed with its indication, contraindication and the criteria, that is Bishop score. So you can watch these two videos. So here we'll discuss different methods, what all means are there through which we can initiate or start the uterine contraction. So that can be through either drugs or maybe we can use non-pharmacological methods. Okay, so first we'll discuss the medical method. So in medical method, the drug that is most effective is the prostaglandin analog. So there are two prostaglandin analogs, PGE2 and PGE1. So the example of PGE2 analog is the Dinoprostone. So what prostaglandin does, they make the cervix to be more ripen up, where the cervix can be more soft, more pliable. So especially these two drugs are help in preparing the cervix to be dilatable. Okay, so the most effective one is Dinoprostone, and this we can give in a gel form. So through transcervical mean we can inject, and it is available in 0.5 milligram, and 6 hourly we can repeat this drug, and up to maximum 3 to 4 doses we can administer to a mother. So this is most effective drug, Dinoprostone, but it needs refrigeration for its storage and its efficacy. So this available in gel form, and mainly it is useful in cervical ripening. So the main use is to make the cervix ripen up. And the other prostaglandin analog, that is PGE1, and the example of this prostaglandin E1 analog is the Misoprostol. But comparative to this Dinoprostone, it is not that much widely used, but there are some benefit, that is it is more cheaper than this. Okay, it is cheap and can be stored at room temperature, and it can be administered to mother through transvaginally or orally. But vaginal route is more efficacious than oral route, because if we administer through oral route, it passes through the hepatic circulation first, so the bioavailability of the drugs is less, and in comparison to this, if we administer vaginally, then it directly goes into the circulation. So vaginal efficacy is more. So maximally we can administer 25 microgram through transvaginal mean, and again it can be repeat every 4 hourly. Maximum 6 to 8 doses we can administer to the mother. And the other drug that we can administer is the Oxytocin. But this drug especially stimulate the uterine contraction. It is not that much effective in cervical ripening as these are. So this is least effective if Bishop scoring is very poor. Okay, if cervix is not effaced, not dilatable, in that condition the use of this Oxytocin drug is not that much good. But if the Bishop score is poor in such condition, because these are help in cervical ripening, preparing of cervix. So in poor Bishop score, the prostaglandin analogs works better. Okay, but if the score is good, then we can use this oxytocin drug, okay, because it can stimulate the uterine contraction. Yes, although it is also releasing some prostaglandins, but it is not ripen the cervix as that much as these prostaglandin does, okay. So oxytocin we can give in IV infusion, because the half-life of this drug is 3 to 4 minutes. So we need to continuously infuse this oxytocin drug. If we stop infusing this drug, then the efficacy of this drug will be reduced. So we need to infuse this drug continuously for stimulating uterine contraction at a regular rhythmic manner. So these are some drugs that we can use in induction of labor. But here this Misoprostol, this drug we cannot administer to the mother who had previous cesarean section, because this drug causes very tetanic contractions, very strong uterine contraction. So it may lead into the scar rupture if she had CS. So in previous cesarean section mothers, we can't give this drug. But out of all these three, the most effective one is prostaglandin analog. And in that also the Dinoprostone, which is available in gel form, is more effective. Because once we inject this drug in cervical root, it will release prostaglandins. And these prostaglandin breaks the collagen and ground substance in the cervical area that make the cervix to be more softened and more pliable, and thereby it allows the cervix to be dilate. Okay, so for cervical ripening, the prostaglandins are more effective. In that also the most effective one is this one. Okay, so these are the medical method. And if we talk about the other method where we need not to give any medication, then the methods are we can use stripping or sweeping of membrane. So in this technique, we must ensure that the cervix should be at least dilatable for about 1 finger, because if it is not, then we will not be able to introduce our finger and the procedure cannot be carried out. So by this technique, we can introduce our fingers through vaginal root up to the cervical canal and start sweeping the membrane from the decidual lining. Okay, so this is the stretch and sweep technique where we are digitally separating the membranes, that is amnion and chorion, from the decidual lining. So when we digitally separate the membrane from the decidua, it will start releasing the prostaglandin, and thereby again the prostaglandin breaks the collagens and ground substance in the cervix, and it allows the cervix to be more dilate. Other than that, either hygroscopic dilator can be used. So hygroscopic osmotic dilators, where these are some dilators, the devices that can be available naturally or synthetic, and when we use these devices, the dilators, we place them into the cervical canal, where they absorb more water from the cervical region or the surrounding area. So once they absorb more water in, then they get swell, and as they get swollen, then what happens? The cervix get dilatable. But this technique is more effective in abortion process. It is not that much effective in induction of labor. So the dilators that we can use are the laminaria tent or dilapan. Okay, so these are some natural and synthetic dilators that absorb the water and dilate the cervix. Apart from that, the other methods are trans cervical balloon catheter. So here in this, we can introduce Foley's catheter through the vaginal root up to the cervix, and there at the tip of the bulb we can infuse some around 25 to 30 ml of saline, and that inflate the bulb and allow the cervical region to be more dilatable because of the stretching of this bulb. In similar manner, we can use extra amniotic saline infusion. So in this also we can introduce one catheter into the cervical canal by the vaginal mean, and we start the infusion. So that saline will be placed in between the fetal membranes and the decidua. So that saline, the fluid part, exerts some pressure and allow the membranes to get separate from the decidual lining, and again by this the prostaglandin will be released from the decidua as well as from the fetal membrane, and thereby it will allow the cervix to ripen up and to be dilate. Okay, so this is called the extra amniotic saline infusion. Other than that, we can perform artificial rupture of membrane. That is ARM. So as we know that the membrane get ruptured spontaneously just near term or once the onset of labor begins. So if we want to start artificially the labor process, in such condition we can rupture that membrane, because if we rupture the membrane, then the volume of fluid will be reduced, thereby the cavity size will get decreases, and it will stimulate the uterine contraction with a decreasing amount of fluid. And along with that, once the membrane get ruptured, it will release prostaglandins. Okay, so from the membrane as well as from the decidua, the prostaglandin also will release and the uterine contraction can be stimulated. So by this technique, we can initiate the uterine contraction. So for artificially rupturing of membrane also we need the cervix to be dilatable at least for one finger. Okay, so if the cervix is not dilatable, then we won't be able to introduce our finger inside the cervical canal. Okay, so we need to access that area. So in this also, if the cervix is slightly dilatable, then we can introduce our finger, or either we can use amnio hook or amnio cord or the Kocher forceps, any of the devices. So if we are using Kocher forceps, then through the palmar aspect of the fingers we can introduce the forceps and get access with this fetal membrane, slightly open the tip of the Kocher's forceps and pick up that membrane and move it in rotatory motion, thereby the membrane get ruptured. So once it gets ruptured, the fluid will come out. That decreases the pressure within the uterus and thereby it will stimulate the uterine contraction. So here in this lecture, we'll discuss different methods. The medical method, by the use of drugs, we can induce the uterine contraction, and the other method where we are not using any drugs, or maybe we can combinedly by using medical method and the other method we can induce the labor process. So this is the third and the last part where we have seen the different methods. Thank you.